Okay, we've got the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, this is a very unexpected series because you think about it. This is the first time since they've had a 16-team tournament where you've got the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed that didn't even make it to the conference finals. This is the very first time. Listen, I didn't have Miami versus Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know about you, but we're here, and we've got an amazing series. Listen, these two teams, well coached. They've got elite perimeter play. Both of these teams are legit on both ends of the courts, two-way squads. So the Miami Heat, they come with a different style, right? Where they are one of the best three-point shooting teams. The Boston Celtics, I mean, listen, this team right here has been one of the best defensive teams all season, but they do it a little different way. Like, they don't have an elite rim protector, right? But they have one of the best players on the defensive end in the entire game in Marcus Smart. Once again, the Miami Heat do it a little differently. Their best defensive player has been Bam Adebayo this year, the big man down low who's been locking the paint down. So when you're talking about a contrast in styles, yet these two teams are extremely similar, this is going to make for an amazing series. Listen, I'm calling right now. This will be a 7-game series. I don't see many blowouts. Like the last series where both these teams played, the Miami Heat against the Milwaukee Bucks, which they pretty much manhandled them the same way they did to them pretty much during the regular season, and then even the Boston Celtics kind of really starting off extremely strong against the Toronto Raptors, you know, kind of having a little being knocked back on the heels after that OG Anunoby 3, but for the most part, Boston Celtics kind of, you know, they kind of toyed with the Toronto Raptors throughout the regular season. So both of these teams right here have been legit all season, and it's no surprise that the Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat made it, but I think it is a surprise that both of them made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So on this journey here, I'm going to be breaking down this matchup because, once again, this will be a 7-game series. I can almost guarantee it. Now, I'm not Charles Barkley, so my guarantees, most of them typically tend to come right. However, I had the Toronto Raptors going to the finals. That didn't happen, and you got to give the Boston Celtics a lot of credit for that. The Miami Heat, on the other hand, they were flipping between them and the Milwaukee Bucks for me. And that was a tough series, which I knew the Miami Heat was a bad matchup for Milwaukee. However, I didn't expect them to go through them the way that they did. Now, Giannis getting hurt, obviously, that kind of helped the Miami Heat situation, but I think they was going to win that series regardless. So now we're here, and now it's time to break this thing down. But listen, on this video, not only will I be breaking down the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics series, make sure that you stick around to the end of this video because I'm also going to take a deep dive into the Game 7. I can't believe I'm saying this. Game 7 of the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. We might as well just call these guys the comeback Nuggets because these boys have done it not once, not twice, not 3 times. This is their 4th straight Game 7 dating back to last year for the Denver Nuggets. These boys right here just are determined to be in tough 7-game series. And they're trying to be the very first team in NBA history to come back from a 3-1 deficit twice in the same season. Man, let's get into it.
Are you ready?
Man, welcome back to Journey of a Ballaholic, the best talk show for basketball addicts. I'm your host, General Hannibal Lex. Now, if you're new on this channel here, you're going to be getting my passionate and in-depth analysis on the hottest NBA and college basketball topics. Listen, I'm a ballaholic, absolutely addicted to basketball. And just like everybody, I have my own opinions. But if you like opinions that are backed by facts, go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, but also be sure that you hit that bell notification so that you'll be updated whenever I drop new videos, which is every Monday and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, man, listen, I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see this one here. I'm very excited to see the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics square off starting tomorrow. Game 1 is tomorrow night. This right here is going to be a very interesting matchup. As I said before, I think we've got a contrast of styles somewhat because these teams, they're kind of similar. Starting with the Miami Heat, listen, first of all, I got to give them major props because even though I thought that they could beat the Milwaukee Bucks, I got to admit, man, I did not expect them to just manhandle Giannis in particular and that Milwaukee Bucks team. So you got to tip your hat to Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, Bam Adebayo. Like, the boys played well. But that's the thing about this Miami Heat team. They are deep. Those boys over there, they don't depend on 1 or 2 superstars. You got some teams in the West that are more superstar heavy. That's not the Miami Heat team. The Miami Heat team right now is probably the most balanced team left in this playoffs. Think about this, man. You've got Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler as their two all-stars. But neither one of those guys are 30-point night a game players. Now they can score, like Jimmy can give you a 30-point game. You know, Bam, he could give you a 30-point game, but they're not going to average 30 in any of these series in any playoff game. So, what is the difference? What is that secret sauce that Spoelstra's working up over there? He understands that if I don't have that superstar, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade talent that he's had on his championship teams in the past, he's got to do it differently. And what he's doing is he's using 8, 9, sometimes 10 guys in his rotation, and they're coming and producing. Like, think about this for a second. Kendrick Nunn, right, who was a top, 3 guy in Rookie of the Year, kind of surprised people this season. He started a lot of the season, a lot of the regular season games for them. Well, because of the whole bubble situation, he's now coming off the bench with Dragic getting those starting minutes. The Dragon has been playing excellent basketball. And so when you've got Kendrick Nunn, who's a young guy that can come in and kind of, start the game off, coming off the bench, seeing the speed of the game, seeing how the refs are calling the game, seeing the mistakes that Dragic is maybe making, or seeing what Dragic is exploiting, that's beneficial. So now that he's going to be able to work his way back into it, then you look at a guy like Tyler Hero, who's coming off their bench, right? Think about this. Tyler Hero is one of their top, 4 or 5 scorers, especially in this last round, and he's coming off their bench. He's able to see how the defense is guarding Dragic, or how the defense is guarding Duncan Robinson, and now he can come in and listen. That young fella right there, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem in this series, depending on how the Boston Celtics decide to match up with him. Then look at the Miami Heat, the rest of their bench. You got a guy like Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is going to be a real interesting matchup for this Boston Celtics team, and I think Boston did get a good example of how they're going to defend Kelly Olynyk based on playing the Toronto Raptors, because the Raptors played with Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, who both play primarily on the perimeter. And as we know, Kelly Olynyk's over a 40% shooter from 3. So he's going to be a really interesting factor in this. And then you got the Eagle. Listen, you've got Andre Iguodala, a former Finals MVP, coming off your bench. Now listen, Andre Iguodala is not what he once was when he was in Philly, and he definitely isn't even what he was with Golden State. But Andre Iguodala is a guy who, I'm telling you, he could be an X factor in 1 or 2 games. He could be a guy that can give you an unexpected 12, 15 points and make some key defensive plays. So you cannot disregard his experience. Having those guys coming off your bench, that's a lot, man. And I in this series, I give Miami Heat the advantage when it comes to the bench play. But when it comes to your main guys, you got to give the Boston Celtics the advantage. Like, this Boston Celtics team right here, they may not have the depth due to injury, where you've got Gordon Hayward, who's out. We don't know when he'll be returning. He is back in the bubble. I think he's cleared quarantine. But we don't know when he's going to be back into game shape and ready to play in a playoff game, specifically against the Miami Heat. So for right now, this Boston Celtics team is top heavy. I mean, listen, Jason Tatum, who's definitely one of my favorite players, as many of you all know, Kobe's my favorite player of all time, and Jason Tatum was like, a pupil that was learning from the experience that Kobe was providing a lot of these young players. And Tatum's got that kind of Mamba mentality. He's got a silky smooth offensive game. I mean, once again, I'm a big Blue Devils fan, so seeing him come from high school, seeing him come to college, and now with the Boston Celtics, like, this young fella right here is going to be a problem in a couple years. But right now, he showed in the last series, Jason Tatum not only is an all-star, Jason Tatum is a borderline superstar. He's going to be that in the future. His game is smooth. He's very poised, where it's hard to really rush him. And listen, not only is he scoring efficiently, this man right here is crashing the boards, and he's giving it everything you want. He joined Kobe Bryant as one of the youngest players in NBA history to put up what was like 25, 10, and 5 in a Game 7 situation. And most of that was getting on the glass, man. Doing whatever it takes to win. Jason Tatum did that. So I love what Jason Tatum brings. Then when you look at a co-star or a co-duo, right, where you're looking at Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker. These guys right here, man, especially Jaylen Brown, this young fella's ready. I love the two-way ability of a Jaylen Brown. He's gonna need it because in this matchup here, the defense that he brought last series against Pascal Siakam was excellent, and I think he's gonna have to duplicate that, particularly going up against Jimmy Buckets. Because let's be real, Jimmy Butler, that's a tough matchup, man. He's a tough matchup because he's physical. Jimmy Butler knows his game. He knows where his shots are going to come from. That was one of the things that Siakam seemed to be out of place, trying to figure out where he was going to score, how he was going to manufacture his points. You don't have to worry about that from Butler. Now, once again, Butler's not a guy that's going to go out there and average 30 a night. But Butler's a guy that when you need 30 can go and get you 30. When you need a clutch basket, Butler can get you that clutch basket. But for me, the biggest X factor for this Boston Celtics team, without question, has to be Kemba Walker. Listen, the Boston Celtics almost were exposed in the last round. Nick Nurse, to me, I've been preaching it all season, is one of the best coaches, not just up-and-coming coaches, one of the best coaches in the entire NBA. Nick Nurse played an amazing defensive strategy against the Boston Celtics that almost flipped that whole series and had the Raptors advancing to the conference finals. That was decided to take the ball out of Kemba Walker's hands. Why, you may ask? Once again, Kemba Walker's the engine that makes this thing run. Walker has that ability to create his own shot off the dribble, to penetrate the defense and get inside to draw the defense in and to be able to kick out to open shooters, and the Celtics have shooters all over the court. He ran that box and one on Kemba Walker, which took Walker out of the game. The last two games, Game 6 and Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Toronto Raptors, Kemba Walker combined for 19 points. After averaging that throughout the regular season, right, after kind of giving you that almost every other night throughout the first round, I don't think he scored less than 19 points in the first round, right? I think he had a couple 20-point games early in this series against the Toronto Raptors. Once Nick Nurse understood, I've got to take the ball out of his hands, that's going to disrupt the entire offensive flow. It almost changed this entire series. And so that's going to be a really interesting defensive scheme to see if Eric Spoelstra does that. Now, granted, I don't think he has the personnel to possibly do that because, once again, having Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, who's one of the quickest hands, I think he was number 4 in the NBA in steals this year, having them to play those passing lanes, to be able to try to be, somewhat physical, not necessarily really physical, but just kind of, being in good position to deny Kemba Walker the ball. I don't know if Dragic can do that. I mean, we're going to have to see if he can do it because I think he's going to have to do it. For me, those two players, that matchup there, those are the two X factors and the guys I think who are going to really swing the outcome of the series. Kemba Walker for the Boston Celtics and Goran Dragic for the Miami Heat. Listen, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, the two stars for the Miami Heat, they have to be good. Once again, I think those two guys have to combine for about 45 every single night. I think 45 every single night for the most part between those two. In this series, I'm saying. Because that Boston Big Two, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're going to give you about 45 to 50 every game, right? So where does Kemba Walker fit in? Where does Goran Dragic fit in? These guys right here, I think who wins that battle, who wins that point guard matchup and is able to create shots for those shooters that are going to be all over the place, that's going to be very key. Now, another interesting dynamic or interesting matchup is going to be how the Boston Celtics defend a legitimate big man. And I say that because going into that Toronto series, one of the advantages I gave the Raptors and why I felt that they could beat the Celtics was their interior advantage with Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. However, the execution was not there. And also, I got to give credit to Brad Stevens. He switched it up on him. He said, I'm not going to allow you to just abuse Enes Kanter when he's on the defensive end. He took him out the entire series and played Robert Williams, who's a better defender. Great coaching move, and I think that was one of the X factors for them winning that series. It kept Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka on the perimeter, right? Which played into the hands of the Boston Celtics. Bam Adebayo's not going to do that. Bam's not going to float out to the three-point line and be jacking up a whole bunch of threes as you saw Marc Gasol doing. Now, Serge Ibaka did that, and he was knocking them down. And I understand that role for him. But I expected Marc Gasol to get on that box and use his size. He did not do that. I expect Bam Adebayo to do that. And I think that right there is going to be something that can neutralize the effectiveness effectiveness of Daniel Tice as well as Robert Williams if they decide to play him, which I can't imagine they're going to go to Enes Kanter now, the way that Robert Williams plays so well, and the fact that Kanter's not the defender that Williams is, and you're going to need that against Bam. You're going to need somebody battling hard to keep Bam off the backboard on both ends, right? And so it's going to be real interesting to see that matchup because Daniel Tice and Robert Williams played exceptionally well in that last series. How are they going to do against a legitimate two-way big man? I think that favors the Miami Heat. I think that the depth is definitely favoring the Miami Heat in this series. Once again, Tyler Hero doesn't start. That's where you got Duncan Robinson who starts for the Miami Heat. And he's a guy, Duncan Robinson is a guy that you cannot leave open for a split second or he will drill a three. So who's going to match up with Duncan Robinson? Because he's going to require a lot of energy from whoever's guarding him. And I think that probably should be Marcus Smart that they put on Duncan Robinson. Personally, I would like to see Jaylen Brown matched up against Jimmy Butler, put Jason Tatum on James Crowder, right? And then allow Marcus Smart to use his energy chasing Robinson around those screens. Then, when Tyler Hero comes in, that's the matchup I want to see. Marcus Smart, Tyler Hero, that matchup right there is going to be, if there's a second X factor, other than the point guard matchup between Dragic and Walker, it's got to be Marcus Smart and Tyler Hero. Those guys right there are like the fourth leading scorers for both of their squads. Whoever wins that series, that matchup, from a production standpoint, right? And a lot of times it's across matchups and things like that, and I get that. But from a production standpoint, the Miami Heat, who's a deeper team, and the Boston Celtics, who are a more top-heavy team, the Boston Celtics cannot win the series unless their best three players play like the best three players, right? Walker, Tatum, and Jaylen Brown have to win their matchups, right? They have to win those matchups because Bam's going to win his matchup. Jimmy Butler, if he's the best player in this series, the Boston Celtics can't win. The Boston Celtics can't win if Jimmy Butler's the best player in the series. Jason Tatum has to be the best player in the series for them to have a chance. Bam's going to dominate his matchup. The point guard matchup is going to be very instrumental to who's going to win this. And I think that shooting guard matchup with Tyler Hero's in there in particular and Marcus Smart is going to be very critical to this outcome. So which way am I swinging? Am I leaning? Which way am I going based on this, which I'm already saying from the jump is going to be a 7-game series? My heart is telling me the Boston Celtics. Because I would love to see, in my opinion, a Lakers-Celtics finals. As everyone knows, I'm a Laker fan and I've been saying all season I think the Lakers are going to win the 2020 championship. And they look like that's, they're on the road to that. But the Boston Celtics are the team I want to see them play. However, the Miami Heat is a team that I think that they will play. And once again, I think it's going to come down to the inside-outside of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, the depth, the coaching experience of Eric Spoelstra. I'm leaning with the Miami Heat to win this in 7. I got to go with the Heat, man. I got to go with the Heat. So make sure you go into the comment section below and let me know who you're going with. But before we end this video, I got to talk about this Game 7. The Clippers versus the Denver Nuggets. Listen, this series right here, to me, is the most mind-blowing series that I've seen in a while. I mean, a team as stacked as the Clippers, playing a team that is coming off of a 7-game series where they had to come back from 3-1, who has said continuously that they're playing with house money, right? Everybody's picked the Clippers to make the conference finals. And the last 2 games for the Clippers to be up by 16 plus points in the second half of both of those games and to lose those games and allow the Denver Nuggets a chance to come back from 3-1 yet again. To me, what it says is this is a mentally weak Clippers team. Not a talent. You're not going to question the talent. From a mental standpoint, this is a mentally weak team. When you can't close out on a team who, to me, is an inferior team, now it's not drastically inferior, because I did pick this from the beginning of this series. I picked this to be a 7-game series, and I picked the Clippers to win in 7. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. And I think that will still happen. I still am sticking with the Clippers to win a Game 7, but I got to be honest with you. I'm not very confident about that pick after seeing the Clippers the last 2 games. Now, the talent lets me know that they are the better team because they just continue to get these huge leads. But the fight, the will to win, is a stronger when it comes to the Denver Nuggets team. You've heard a lot of them say they play better when their backs are to the wall. Well, now you're in a true elimination game, right? And they've been excellent in elimination game. The team that has not has been led by Doc Rivers. This isn't the first rodeo for a Doc Rivers team that has been up 3-1 and allowed a team to come back. He did it with the Tracy McGrady team in Orlando. He did it with the Chris Paul and Blake Griffin team in previous years with the Clippers. And now you're in a situation, you're up 3-1, you have a 16-point lead in Game 6 and you lose that. Okay, it happens. It happened in round 1 against Dallas, but okay, it happened again. You rally the troops, you get up by 19 points in the second half. Where's that leadership, right? Greg Popovich is already gone on record to say Kawhi Leonard is an extreme talent, but he's not a great leader. Okay, that's the words from Pop. But Doc Rivers, you're the coach. Where's your leadership? Why are you not making the right adjustments, making the right timeouts, making the right substitutions, whatever's needed? Like, you put Reggie Jackson in the fourth quarter of a game where he hadn't played in 2 games. Listen, I remember as a Laker fan, I remember us playing the Boston Celtics in the finals back in 2010. And I remember Phil Jackson during a timeout telling his team, this team right here, they lose games in the fourth quarter. He says they lose games. This is a Doc Rivers-led team that had KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. Phil Jackson said this team loses games. That's what I'm saying from this Clipper team. They've repeatedly had big leads and will lose it in the fourth quarter. I don't expect that to happen tomorrow night. I expect the Claw Kawhi Leonard to come out there and show he is the best player in the series. Because Joker just giving him a run for his money. Be very clear. The Joker is giving Kawhi Leonard his run for money for who's the best player in this series. I think Kawhi Leonard's going to put that to rest. Paul George, I don't know what we're going to get from Paul George. I mean, I got to give him credit because I bashed him in the first round. I got to give him credit. He's played very well in this second round series. He played very well in Game 6. I don't know what Paul George I'm getting in Game 7. Lemon Pepper Lou, six-man Montrezl Harrell. I don't know what I'm going to get from these guys. The one guy I know what I'm going to get from is Kawhi Leonard. And I need to see a 35, 40-point game from Kawhi Leonard. And I need a lot of that to be in the second half, right? Because I expect the Clippers to go, get a lead, and get back up big. But the difference in this has to be when they get up big, they got to put them away. And I expect the Clippers to win this by 12, 13 points tomorrow night to end that Game 7 and to set us up for the Lakers versus the Clippers. So listen, let me know in the comment section below, who are you going with? The Celtics or the Miami Heat to win this series? The Clippers or the Denver Nuggets to win Game 7? Let me know. I appreciate you for taking a look at this video. Listen, if you missed my video where I broke down who I think is going to win the 2020 NBA Championship, go ahead and click the box right here on the screen. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and click the logo. Listen, make sure that you stay safe out in those streets. And remember, we still demand justice for Breonna Taylor and Jacob Blake. Peace.